when you compare, I saw something and I reported it, to the process is clear, right? You hope they're about the same, right? Or it might be that the process is clear, but for other reasons, I'm not reporting. So it's interesting that in France, they reported even though the system wasn't clear. At least that it may not be the same people answering those two things, but same with, it looks like Canada, where people reported, but they're not so sure the process is clear. And without a clear process, it's very hard to get people to report things.
I think that's a good point. And I do think both Canada and France, I would say, are more immature in their whistleblowing reporting and metrics and all of that kind of thing. Like it's still being I guess accepted. And I do think that, again, France and Spain, and we didn't do Spain on this particular research, but France and Spain have both been they've been lagging behind in the rollout of whistleblowing programs.
Mm-hmm.
So from the first poll question, in your organization, everyone speaks up with questions, concerns, and different perspectives. Only 3% strongly agree. So that's interesting. 54% agree and 38% disagree. And then 3% strongly disagree. So that's really interesting that it's 38% disagree that people are speaking up. So,
well, it's very similar to results I've seen over the last 30 years in culture assessments, where for all the reasons we're going to discuss, people don't feel comfortable speaking up. And I think the next question might be one of the reasons. But the other thing that you see, if we had done this where people said whether they manage others or not, my experience is also that managers think people speak up more than the general employee population thinks. So, when I do this kind of thing in person, there's a little nervous laughter about that point.
Yeah, so that's a really interesting point. Now, on the second poll question, in your organization, everyone actively listens when someone shares questions, concerns, and different perspectives. Again, only 4% strongly agree, 56% agree, 32% disagree, and 6% strongly disagree. So I think we have a lot of opportunities to talk about how are we going to improve that, because that's
and how those two questions relate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so on some of the other key findings that we discovered, percentage of employees who feel comfortable speaking up at work. Again, USA much more comfortable than the rest of the countries. I guess, this is Sarbanes-Oxley started this whole process, so that does make sense. Percentage of employees who claim to have witnessed retaliation against a whistleblower. Again, very high in the US, and that tracks with the EEOC findings. Much higher in Brazil, and then France and Canada and Australia lag behind again. And percentage of employees who are confident that their employer would protect a whistleblower. Again, France at the bottom of there. So USA is higher. And again, this is kind of ironic given the EEOC's findings that over 48% of the discrimination claims are to do with retaliation in the workplace.